All right, folks, Total Archery Challenge is right around the corner. Hunting season is done for pretty much everybody, for the most part. So the next step, aside from turkey, right, the big thing is total archery, which is probably one of my favorite things you can do with a bow aside from hunting.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of equipment that I think that's vital to really, I think, make the most of it, I would say. Not just have fun, but like make the most out of it if you're going to shoot the courses.
Yeah.
And one of the critical pieces of gear is obviously a good bow sight.
Yes.
So that's what we're talking about today. And we're going to kind of go through some of our favorite sites for 2026, 2025, I guess.
Yeah.
Talk about them and kind of dive into them and really what makes a good bow sight for Total Archery Challenge.
Yes.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Solid. So that's it, guys. That's what we're doing today. So thanks for joining us on another episode of the Archery Project. I'm your host, Zakk Plocica, and I got Mr. J.R. Gettler back in the hot seat once again with all of his vast knowledge in the archery world, right? Somebody who probably plays with more of the gear than anybody I know.
Yeah.
And very in-depth with it. So we'll kind of set the scene for this, right? If you don't know what Total Archery Challenge is, maybe you live under a rock. I don't know. But it's obvious. It's a very popular 3D archery event, but it is different than your standard 3D archery, right? In the fact that there's no scoring. There's a lot of different courses to choose from. It's all just basically based off fun. It's not really that competitive, but it is pretty technical.
Yes.
And it is much more challenging terrain-wise than a standard 3D event, I would say.
Right. I would describe it as a great way to be able to go out there and test your equipment before hunting season to make sure you have what you need or to kind of fine tune it. And it does make it more of a challenge. Some of the shots can be very technical, very long, very hard shots. And it's all throughout the nation now. It's been blowing up over the last couple of years, in my opinion. And it's just a great way to go out there with a couple of buddies, have some fun, and just really test your equipment.
It is. And it really does do a good job, like JR said, putting your equipment to the test, because the terrain is one of the major things that you're navigating. It's not just the shots, but you're actually, typically most of these are on the side of a mountain.
Right.
So at some kind of ski resort where there's a ton of property or a ton of land and a lot of different courses and very steep elevation, everything kind of comes into play. You're shooting uphill, you're shooting downhill, you're shooting through windows. And one of the other big things you're doing is shooting from a lighted area into a dark area. Right. We had that in Tennessee, where the weather was real bad. You're standing on the side of a mountain and you're shooting down into a bottom where it's really dark. Right. So pin configuration, scope sizing, pin brightness all come into effect whenever it comes to choosing a good site for Total Archery Challenge.
And not even just that, but just the durability side too, because we had a lot of weather last year. It rained a lot, so slipping and sliding everywhere, a lot of mud. So if you're falling, possibly bumping your equipment, making sure you have good quality stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does matter, because if you bump that, like when we're talking about shooting those extreme angles, if you bump off one of your axes, that throws off the entire sight. So it's something you really need to consider, and when we talk about it, I guess going right into it with those extreme angles, it's probably in your best interest to have a sight that has the ability to adjust your second, third axis, right? Because a lot of your entry level sights, right? Whether they're fixed pin sight, whatever they are, don't give you that option, right? You slap it on the bow and that's it. You really cannot adjust it specifically to the bow,
right?
Which is a major factor for angles.
Yeah, especially those uphill, downhill. That's crucial for your third axis and to make sure it is set up correctly as well.
Yeah, because you'll be missing left and right and questioning yourself and your capability.
Yeah. Even just a 40-yard shot. It can throw you off inches. So it could be a matter of having a great successful hunt or wounding an animal. So as an avid bow hunter myself, that's something that I want to avoid as much as possible.
Yeah. It really does challenge you in all ways with your equipment. It'll make you realize too, your bow's not set up correctly, whether it's draw length, peep height, because shooting those angles, everything kind of changes. And you really don't have the ability to do that when you go in a shop, right? Or most people, for example, for us, we're here on the East Coast, it's super flat. Like we're not shooting any extreme angles unless you get in a tree stand and jack yourself way up high and try to shoot that, but it just doesn't compare.
Yeah, it is very hard to get that configured correctly. So like I said, great way to get out there and test your equipment and really make sure everything's set up right.
Yeah, and that's the other cool thing about it is whenever you're at Total Archery event and you go through and you shoot your first course and you realize you got a problem, they got their vendor village there and you can go through and get set up correctly. There's usually a bunch of shops that are set up there now, manufacturers that can help walk you through the process. And then they've got their practice course so you can go in and get resighted in, because when you go to Total Archery Challenge, you're going to see a lot of blown up bows. It happens every year. You know, I dry fire their bow on accident or lose their footing, fall, bump something off, and then you've got to have it fixed. And luckily at these events, everything you need is there to get you back up and running and get back in.
Yeah. And that brings me to remember something. I was a couple of years ago now, but I think it was at the Tennessee course. There was one spot, like you're on the top of a cliff and it's an extreme down angle. And it was a video going all around. A dude shoots and then his bow follows right down the ravine. I don't remember what happened to the bow, but I'm sure it didn't look very good.
Yeah, that's a bad time, man. That's a terrible way to start the day if that's your first course too. So yeah, you definitely, it's very unique. It's a ton of fun, but a good site is critical for, I think, performing there. And there's a lot of different options, you know, and you can take this. The great thing about Total Archery Challenge is you can take your bow hunting setup within reason, right? If you have a fixed 3-pin that doesn't dial, it's going to make it a little bit more challenging because you're only going to have that 20, 30, 40 yards whenever these targets that you're shooting are all the way out to 140 yards. Yeah. You know, so a good dial site, really a site that has the ability to dial, I think is worth the investment.
It is.
Especially if you're someone that likes to shoot all the time anyways, because then you can, you know, shoot those extreme yardages once you get your sight tape and get it set up.
Yeah. So. Yeah, great way to just really test your equipment and also push your limits. So, like for me, when I'm practicing, I really do enjoy shooting long distance because I do feel like it helps those shorter distance shots just make it feel so much easier. So that's why I love to shoot the long distance stuff as well.
Yeah, I put up a post this morning too. Like, there's one thing, I love shooting my bow, but I love shooting my bow far even more, and the best thing is shooting far on the side of a mountain. And that's the thing about Total Archery is you get to do all of those things. And the cool thing is if you're not comfortable, you can walk up and shoot the, you know, shorten the distance. You can shoot from wherever you want, but it is a great way to really challenge yourself. And one of the unique things about it is all the courses are different. So on different sides of the mountain. So, you know, your wind may be different on one side of the mountain, you know, the brightness, what you're shooting into, where you're shooting out of, the angles, all kind of vary. So you really get to test yourself on each course because it is different, not just the shots and the scenarios, but the actual lighting, the elevation and all of that.
Even the weather.
Even the weather, You know, the guys in Tennessee, I think it was Kendrick and Brian last year, they got caught in like a hailstorm on the side of a mountain.
Yeah. And we were at the vendor village and it was just raining there, but they had hail and stuff. Yeah, it was
so bad.
It was crazy.
It is. That's what makes it fun though, man. It's like a bow hunter's paradise because you get put through the elements. And you really get to test yourself. And there's dudes out there that get after it that do not care. They're like, we're shooting rain or shine. I paid to be here. We're shooting.
So. And that's the nice thing too, is the event's going to run rain or shine too. So.
Yeah. You know, and so when we talk about sites, I think one of the things for me that's always a little bit tricky is actual peep size. Because whenever you look at some of these targets, right, you're like, I want extreme precision, right? I want a smaller peep sight. I want a smaller scope housing. I want everything to line up. And then you go and you're shooting into the dark and you're like, I've got no light. I can't see anything. So you really got to kind of weigh the pros and cons, right? Extreme precision or maybe a little bit larger peep sight, a little bit larger scope housing that allows you to get a little bit more light so that you can see into some of those extreme shots.
Yeah. And that's bringing up a good point is like Hamsky, they have their Insight Peep system. So, I mean, if you're going out west and you're having that possibility, you know, you could get the Insight Peep system and that way you can change your aperture size. So if you want to change it on the fly, you know, it's super easy to do. I mean, whether or not you want to bring that with you, you know, that's something you'd have to ask yourself. But this is a great way to be able to test it beforehand. So if you know, okay, well, it's possibility for this, maybe I should go up a peep size.
Yeah. I mean, it gives you options too in the future. Like, cause if you run your hunting setup slightly different than you do, like if you're somebody that's serious about Total Archery Challenge, you have a specific build for it. You can kind of swap that stuff out and play a little bit. So I personally, man, I like a bigger scope housing.
Yeah, I do too.
It's just for me, like, I'll give you a prime example. I have a HHA Tetra on my Mach 33, and then I have an HHA Nitrix XV3, their new sight for this year, on a Decree. And the Tetra scope housing that I've got is much smaller than that new XV3 housing. And I run either a 5/32, usually 3/16 Peep between those two for everything that I do. I don't do a lot of changing when it comes to scope and Peep size. But I noticed that like the 41 style housings are just that little bit bigger, are easier for me to align with my Peep consistently. That's one reason I like Spot Hog stuff a lot. I like their MRT rings. It makes aligning it very easy. And that new XV3 scope housing just fits my 5/32 Peep at 28.5 inches really, really well.
Yeah.
And I'm not running a dovetail sight. I'm running all pick mounted stuff, you know, and some guys that are a little bit more, I would say in tune with like torque tuning and stuff. I don't do any of that. I just haven't dove down that rabbit hole. I know Cooper from PSE is really big on that. I run everything. It's all fixed Picatinny mount. So I'm not able to adjust my scope housing in or out to really accommodate my Peep sight and alignment better. So that 5/32 tends to work really well for me at 28.5 inches with that little bit bigger scope housing.
Yep, I'm at the same, and so I'm typically 30-inch draw. I've been running everything pretty much pick mount 2 or direct mount. I haven't ran a dovetail sight in a couple of years except for on a bridge lock.
Yeah.
But yeah, I typically run a 5/32 Peep as well, and that still lines up really good for me. And I'm running the dialed sight this year is what I had. And I've got the new 3VA sight from them, or scope.
Yeah, I ran their, did I have the Arcos? On my Mach 30?
You got the Arcos.
Arcos, however you say it. I ran that the previous year on a Mach 30 and really enjoyed it. I think the big thing about total archery, like you just don't know weather-wise what you're going to get into and then kind of terrain, like how dark it's going to be based off where you're shooting. Like I like more light. I like bigger scope. I like a little bit bigger Peep sight just to have more visibility. And pin brightness too. I think the way some of these scopes are configured, whenever you choose a sight or a scope, if you don't run a sight light, like I don't ever run a sight light. Like personally, I just don't. I like a fiber that's nice and bright. I always run a 19 thousandths in all of my sights because my sights typically get carried over into hunting. I really don't change a lot. This year I might build something specific for TAC. I'm not 100% sure. But I like that 19,000 fiber with that bigger scope housing. It's just easy for me to acquire that pin and that scope housing and line everything up better.
Yeah, I typically don't run a lot of sight lights either. I have on dialed.
Well, their dialed, I think, light system is pretty slick.
It is, yeah. So you can still you can slide it like a rheostat. So if you want to run it without running the light kit, you can just slide that so you can gather more light or take away if you need to. And the nice thing too with their light kit is after 15 minutes it automatically shuts off too. So it's a really nice system with that. It works really well. Yeah,
they did a good job too, durability wise, I think. And I think majority of your brands nowadays, your high end sights, the durability is there on majority of them, and the functionality that you get with them. I mean, when we're talking about all your premium sights, you know, your dials, your HHAs, your Spot Hogs, your Excels, your UVs, they're all there. They've all got something kind of unique to them. Right. So you really have to get to kind of determine what you like best based ergonomics, right? Because some guys are super, super picky. Like they don't like, you know, where the stop is or, you know, where the throw lever is in order to adjust or dial the sight. So there are a lot of options, but I would say pretty much all your premium sights now are top of the line and just very, for the most part, pretty rugged and durable. But there is nothing more durable than a Spot Hog.
Yes, that is the most indestructible sight on the market, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want something that is just going to hold up and through the test of time, a Spot Hog is probably where it's at.
Yes. Yeah, so. And a lot of sight manufacturers now are making stuff that's interchangeable too. So if you want to change it from a dovetail to a direct mount to a pick mount, it's super easy to do in almost all the sight manufacturers.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and the other thing when you look at too, whenever choosing a sight option for total archery challenge, even for hunting, right, is your pin configuration. I mean, that's a big topic, and everyone, again, has a different opinion on what they like best, whether it's a vertical post, whether it's a horizontal pin, whether it's a multi-pin, single pin, whatever it is, everyone has a little bit of a different opinion on it. I used to be a 3-pin horizontal with the ability to dial. That's what I shot forever. I really liked it because I had a fixed 20, 30, 40, and I could dial exact yardage out past those distances, which was fantastic. I've more recently in the last year or so gone specifically to a vertical post 3-pin is what I like most. I do have a double pin with the Tetra or the single post, 2 pins that are non-adjustable. But everybody this year has come out with a vertical micro adjustable 3-pin sight, which I think is like the move. It gives you the best of everything.
Right.
So you have the clarity on both sides, left or right. There's nothing obstructing the housing. It's clutter free. And you have 3 pins that you can micro adjust for exact yardages. So you can still, as a bow hunter, like a whitetail hunter, 20, 30, 40 to me is like the go-to.
Yep.
Now you can take and run that setup and then dial that yardage with no clutter left or right, up or down. It's all nice and tight, and dial those extreme yardages with that.
Right. Yeah, and it does make it convenient with that vertical post, so you can just follow that leg up on a whitetail, and then you're going to be right there in that vital V pretty much, as long as you're aiming right. But yeah, it does make it really nice with that aiming wise. Like for me though, I don't care whether it's a horizontal or vertical, but I have been kind of gravitating more towards that vertical post as well.
I think too, you can see whenever you're torquing the bow a little bit with the vertical post, and I think that's another great point that was brought up yesterday by Pat Hill. A friend of ours, and whenever you're shooting that bow, and if you start to induce hand torque in a riser, it's going to throw the flight of your arrow off, right? So you want to do everything you do to mitigate hand torque,
right?
And that's another way of checking yourself. You can always look up at your cam, right, and make sure everything's tracking in line, which is what I typically do. Yeah. The more familiar I get with the bow, the less you have to do that. But a new bow, I always check cam and string to make sure I'm not torquing it. But that's another great way too, is making sure if you're torquing that bow, you'll start to see those posts and it won't be as clear as it should be.
Right.
So it's another great way of checking yourself. And that's why another reason I like that vertical post style.
Yep. That's a great point.
But so what about this though? So when we talk about vertical posts, obviously you can run a single pin, you can run a 2-pin non-adjustable, or you can run now those 3 vertical pins that are all adjustable. What in your opinion, do you like a single pin specifically for TAC if you were going to pick one, or do you still like the multi-pin option?
Nope. I'm going to run a multi-pin option.
Why?
I want to be able to have different yardages, and a lot of times if you run that single pin, that's going to limit you on your yardages too. So you got to have more options for you basically. And another nice thing too is, once you have those 3 pins, as long as they have the indicators on your side tape too, as long as your side tape is set correctly to those indicators, you can choose any different pin for any yardage. So it does make it really nice to be able to do that. So you can use any pin as your floater with that.
Yeah, so that was what I wanted to pull out of you, because I was sitting to think about this last night whenever we were going to talk about it. And I was like, man, one of the big the limiting factors for people is yardage when it comes to these, right? Like I just don't get enough yardage out of my sight, guys that run single pins and whatnot. But when you have more like pin options, whether it's a 2 or a 3-pin adjustable with those multiple indicators, like last year at Total Archery Challenge, my Mach 33, I was running a fairly light arrow, an Easton 5.0. It's like, what was it, 418-ish grains, somewhere around there. I could dial that side out with my top pin all the way to like almost 120 yards. Yeah. But then I could get down to like 160 with my bottom pin and my bottom indicator. So I really had the ability to shoot that bow as far as I could ever need.
Right.
So that is one of the things I would agree with you on too, is I like those multi-pins over just a single pin for that precision, just to get a little bit more distance out of my sight, because we know some of these courses, some of the more challenging courses that they have, are going to really test the limit of how far you can shoot that bow.
Right.
So yeah, I really like the that 3-pin. And now with everybody going to the micro adjustment on it, where you can, like, we're not talking about sliding, how you always had to move your pins, you had to slide them. They're micro adjustable now. So you loosen a set screw and you can micro adjust these pins up or down for perfect yardage. So you really get a lot out of these sights now.
Yeah. The only, it's not even really a downside, it's just more of an inconvenience, is you have to make sure you have those indicators set correctly. So that's where it's nice on like that 2-pin, is because they've already got that preset on the indicator, so you don't have to worry about bumping those or moving them. So that is, one of the nice things with that. It makes it a little bit easier for setup. So just with those multi-pins, you have to take more time to get it set up correctly.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where some people miss too, is they don't take their time with setting up their yardage tapes or their sight tapes. It's really easy to rush it. You shoot one good group, good group, and you know, at 20 and 60, whatever it is, however you're doing it, and you throw that sight tape on, and it turns out that group wasn't as good as it should have been. It wasn't consistent. You weren't consistently shooting these groups, and your sight tape is now off, and you've got to kind of reconfigure it.
Right.
So for me, whenever I set my sight tape for something like this, it usually takes me like a week or so to do it, because I'll shoot 20 and make sure 20's on, and then I'll go back to 60. I'll shoot 60 for a couple of days, and then I'll kind of walk back farther and I'll mark it on there. I'll shoot 80, 100, whatever it is, and then I'll line everything up and make sure that it's actually trued. And then I go back and I true the actual sight tape to make sure that that sight tape is actually where it's supposed to be.
Right. And I'm pretty much the same way. It takes me a couple days to get mine set, but I'll actually shoot all the yardages, and I want to make sure everything is set correctly so I can confirm the data is matching correctly.
Yeah, I think it's important, because you go out there and, you know, you've only shot 20 and 60, and you go to dial 110 yards, and then you know, not even close.
Yeah, you're missing the target, losing arrows, and if you're shooting 5.0s or any high-end arrow, you know, that's a lot of money that you could be losing potentially.
Dude, we watched guys lose like a dozen and a half, 2 dozen arrows at total archery events. So if you're starting to lose arrows that fast, I would say slow down and check, see what's wrong. Go to one of the shops that are there to have them help you out. Yeah. Because that gets expensive quick.
Yeah, it can. And that brings up a point too, is like, you know, a lot of guys are running those aftermarket sight tapes, like precision cut. You know, you got to get all the measurements for your peep height, your arrow measurements, peep to scope, all that stuff. That is really cool, and it does actually work really well, but it cannot be always perfect. So it's just another thing. Definitely take your time when you're doing it.
You've always got to check it. And that's the big takeaway, I think, is just make sure that you've checked and confirmed your equipment, and make sure that's all of, like, on your sights. Like, you need to go to a shop where, if you have the ability to get your axes adjusted, for example, right? You need to make sure it's true, get it adjusted, make sure it's set up correctly. You need to lock those screws down. Because I can't tell you how many times we see guys, they're like, I don't know why I'm missing. And you grab their scope housing, and there's just play in it. And there's a set screw that's loose. Right. So you always need to double check your equipment once you get it set up and sighted in, because that is a reality of it. It's very easy to overlook those little things when you're excited about it. And then that will cost you and just make you won't get the most out of the trip. Right.
Yeah. It'll just get you frustrated. And then you're not having fun. And then you start, you know, just losing arrows left and right again. Yeah, it doesn't make it fun at all. Like you said.
It does. You'll get frustrated quick, especially whenever you're with a group of dudes who are shooting good and you're not. You're like, ugh, what am I doing? You know you're a good shooter, but something's just off. We had that with one of the events. One of the guys that shot with us, he just struggled, and the bow was set up last minute, and you know he eventually, halfway through the course, he ended up getting it dialed in.
Yeah, we got him kind of more locked in.
Yeah.
He started having fun then.
But dude, that happened to me whenever we were in PA a couple years ago, because obviously when you commute with your equipment, and let's say you put it in a case, when you pull it out, if you flying or if you're driving, things get bumped. They've got really great practice courses to check your equipment. I was overly confident with my equipment, and we went and shot the first target straight uphill. It was a Bigfoot at like 104. Buddy, that thing's in the bushes. And I was like, oh no. So it took me about 5 targets to get it redialed in, but my sight had been bumped. And it was just way off. And I had to go back through and set everything up and get it. We got it dialed back in, but you know,
it's frustrating though.
It is frustrating, dude. And it's simple mistakes. So yeah, definitely really, you know, once you get your stuff back and unpacked, you need to go through and recheck your equipment and just make sure everything's good. True it. Walk over the practice course, sling a couple arrows, and make sure. Because it was frustrating for me. I'm like, dude, I know I can shoot. Why am I missing this massive target? It's 100 yards, but it's a monstrous target. Why is this thing missing, you know, a foot left?
One thing that can help mitigate that too is sometimes I like to make reference marks on my sight. So if it's like a pig mount, I'll make a mark where it needs to go back under the riser, where the set screw is for it. You know, I'll make a reference mark so you know where it's lined back up again. You can check it, do it for your first, second, third axis, make those reference marks to make sure everything is where it needs to be. That's a little tip that can help you if you want to do that.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Another thing to look at too is your actual sight tape, making sure it's waterproof. Or has some kind of coating or tape over it to keep it, 1, from bleeding, and 2, from peeling off,
Right.
because like we talked about, you get all different weather, and these are pretty much rain or shine, man. And when you go to shoot a course, and let's say it's raining and you've got more courses to shoot, and you got a sight tape that's a paper sight tape, that whether the little film is peeled off, that thing can bleed. Yep. Right. Or it can start to peel up, and then you're basically at the mercy of starting all over again.
Right. Yeah, that's where, so like Dial, they have aftermarket sight tape you can make. It's like a $10 subscription for a year. So you can go in there, you can make your own custom sight tapes. And
that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's actually really nice. So that's where I'll confirm all my data, and I'll build my tapes off of that. But the nice thing with that too is, just print it out on printer paper. It'll give you 3 that you can print out, but I'll take some packing tape, I'll cut that out, and then I'll use it to slide it onto that, the ring, the sight ring. So,
yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of your premium sights now do come with good sight tapes, I would say, that are waterproof, very easy to see. But there's still some that out there that aren't. I mean, that you just need to be cautious with, and do everything you can to waterproof it and kind of bulletproof your setup for these events. Because if you go, I mean, you're gonna shoot in the rain if you paid to go there. Like snow, I mean, hail. I mean, we were in the hail. That was not fun. They shut her down after that. But the weather changes pretty quick in the mountains, and you just need to be prepared for it. So locking in and bulletproofing your actual sight tape is going to save you if you've got another day of shooting, so that you can go out and actually. You surviving over there?
Sorry,
what you got going
tickle
on?
In my throat.
Dang, dude, something's got you.
Yeah.
So a lot of little things to consider. When talking about, again, pin configuration, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it really comes down to what you're comfortable with. I mean, because everybody shoots different things. But I would say single pin can be limiting.
Yes.
For yardage, and a multi-pin fixed sight can really limit you as far as the full experience. And if that's all you got, that's all you've got. You can absolutely make it work. You can definitely walk up a little bit closer and get those in, but just be prepared whenever you get there. If you don't have the ability to shoot those further yardages, you're going to have to walk up if your sight doesn't dial.
Yeah. Or if you're comfortable losing arrows, I mean, definitely work on pin gapping. It is a great skill to know and to do, which I never really did much with it. But I know lots of guys that do it, and they can do it phenomenally. So if you want to work on that skill, absolutely, have fun with it. Yeah.
One thing you can do too is if you know the courses that you're going to shoot and you know the minimum distance, you can re-sight that fixed sight in for those courses, right? So if you know the minimum distance on, for example, the prime course is 40 yards, your starting pin could be 40 yards, and you can give yourself greater distance, right? If it's a fixed 5 pin, start at 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. You can get out to 80 to 90 yards with that sight. So you got to be a little bit strategic with it, but you can definitely make things work for you and set yourself up for success with this.
Right.
So it's just another little thing. The other thing too is getting the most distance out of your sight. How do you get the most distance out of your sight? I'd say one thing that we see with people is their peep height issue.
Right.
Wouldn't you say?
That's probably the number one thing I would say.
Peep's too low.
Yep. And that feeds into anchor point and everything too. So it's all combined. So you really got to focus on getting a good anchor point, being consistent with that, and then making sure that peep is lined up correctly.
Yeah, I would say that's a massive part of it is the correct anchor and how you anchor and making sure your anchor consistent. Because you need to be able to check that. You need to be able to check up and down too, because it does change based off the angle. But what we do see with some people that struggle with distance is, aside from shooting an overly heavy arrow for an event like this, where you're going to limit yourself, is the actual height itself, where guys are really ducking their heads in or anchoring too high on their face, and the peep is too low. So you're not going to get as much distance out of your sight the shorter or the lower that peep sight is. So obviously you don't want to stretch yourself out to where it's uncomfortable and you're like anchoring down here at your collarbone, but you do need to make sure that you put yourself in a good position and that you're not really ducking your head into your string, so that you can increase the height of that peep to get more out of your sight. Right.
Yeah, I see it all the time here, helping guys getting set up. I see them trying to duck and move to the peep, and I try to tell them, it's like you got to stand as static as possible and don't move your head to the peep. Bring the bow and your hand to where it needs to be so you can actually see it clearly.
Right. And if you're still not getting the distance you want, that's where, everything else is set up correctly, that's where you can look at your arrow builds, which we'll do a whole nother podcast on that. But I would say starting point is just making sure with these, one, that your anchor is consistent, because you need to be able to hold that anchor at angles, at different angles, right? Where that anchor isn't all over the place where you're chasing this peep. And then you need to make sure that you're in a good position, proud, I would say, position where you're up nice, upright. And that peep just isn't, you're not ducking your head in there like we see a lot, especially some of these shorter axle to axle bows where guys are really trying to make it work. And they're really ducking their head in. You're just not going to get the distance out of those sights, and it'll be limiting, and you'll really figure that out at Total Archery Challenge.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know this is kind of off topic too, but those shorter axle lengths too, I mean, it's going to create a greater string angle too, so that can really kind of make it more challenging to get a good peep height sometimes too.
Yeah, so those are all different factors, but whatever you have, don't let it discourage you from going to these events. But there are little things you can do to set yourself up for success in order to perform better at these events and get the most out of these events, I would say. And those are a couple key things, peep height being one of them, pin configuration. Like I said, I see, we get people that ask all the time, like, I have one bow. This is the only bow can I go to Total Archery Challenge? And you absolutely can. But those little things you can do to set yourself up and have more fun at it with a big example is maybe your zero is not 20 yards, for your fixed 5-pin. Maybe your zero starts based off the courses that you're going to shoot at 40 or 50 yards. And then you can really test yourself in those longer shots. So just little things to consider. What about for you as far as, we go back to pin brightness, right? Because that was one thing that I do notice, which is challenging at Total Archery Challenge, because you don't have a consistent light, right? Obviously you're outdoors. And for someone like me who doesn't like a sight light, because I just feel like they always die.
Right.
Like all the ones I've always used, and maybe I haven't invested in a good enough one yet. I know Diode has a really great one, which is honestly probably one of my favorite ones that I've seen that they've got with the adjustment on it. But one thing I look for in a scope housing that I like is exposure to the fibers, the way they're wrapped around the housing, and they typically have an adjustable rheostat on them. Right. Which allows, because sometimes you might be on this side of the mountain and it's super bright, right? Your pins are way too bright. That rheostat on the scope housing allows you to dim those pins or open it up and expose more fibers and allow those pins to be a little bit brighter.
Right.
And that's why I like a 19,000 personally, because whenever it is dark, they collect more light. It's easier to see.
Yeah, it definitely is. The only downside with that too is those longer shots that can block more of the vitals on the target or the animal. And then also if you have problems like me, I have astigmatism.
Right.
So I do get starbursting. So a 19,000s will starburst faster. So once it gets further distance, it will make it a lot harder to see. So that's where I personally like a 10,000, and I've used that for everything. And going back to just pin brightness in general, I feel like a lot of the companies now have been investing in better pin configurations or pin fibers to actually be able to be brighter. Like Black Gold, they're probably one of the brightest on the market. HHA is really bright, and then with their rheostat housing too, it's a really nice system on there where you can actually just dial that in or out to change for the brightness.
Excel's got a really great scope, I think, too. That has a nice adjustable rheostat on it, and they collect light really, really well. Their fibers are pretty bright, I would say, without having to run any additional light on it. So yeah, any of your premium sites, I think you can get away with. Most people, not everybody, can get away without running a sight light. But there are a lot of guys that maybe it makes sense for you to invest in a sight light. Maybe you've got a little bit lower in sight. The fibers aren't quite as good. Just spend a few bucks. I would get a couple of them, man, or at least a couple batteries. Or the rechargeable ones are honestly the best. Yeah,
that's a lot of companies are coming that way now. Like Bear, all their sight lights are coming with a USB cord, so you can actually recharge it there. So it's super easy with that. There's aftermarket brands. Elvish TAC is probably the biggest one that comes out to me. It's a really nice system. Their battery lasts a really long time. The only downside with that is it does have the LCD display, but you can turn that on and off for the light. So if you want to use it for hunting, you have that as an option.
Oh yeah.
It is a little bit more costly for that. They're roughly like $150 or somewhere around there. So it is a little bit pricier of a system, but it is actually a really nice system. So if you're looking for something nice, definitely look into Elvish TAC, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what about this? What about as far as for you, this type of scenario, this type of event? It's not scored, it's fun, but it's extreme distance, extremely challenging. Lens versus no lens.
So me, I have tried hunting in the past, and I do have a lot of people ask about, whether or not they should hunt with a lens. For total archery challenge, I would say if you want to do it, absolutely go ahead.
You know what my problem with it is the weather.
Yep.
So this, to me, I equate total archery challenge to like a hunting scenario because it's not controlled, right? And whenever you're in the mornings, like some of those mountains, it's super foggy. The condensation is really bad. When you have a lens in your scope or in your Peep sight, clarifier, verifier, whatever it is, good luck seeing that in some of these conditions.
Yeah. And that's where I was getting to. I try to do it more of a hunting style. So I'm going to do it more of a hunting setup. So I'm not going to run a lens. I've tried hunting in the past with the lens. I did a 2-power a couple of years ago. I didn't like it because just with the weather, that's the biggest thing. Yep. You're going to have a chance of it getting messed up. If you drop it, if you're in crappy elements, it's going to get dirty really fast or fogged up really fast. So you'd have to have some kind of cover on it, carrying it in and out. And then once you get up, you can take it off. But it's more cumbersome having that lens in there because you got to make sure you keep it clean and clear. So that's where I wouldn't recommend it for hunting, but TAC, it is kind of a different scenario. It's more of a hybrid kind of setup. So if you want to run one, absolutely you could. Just kind of be up to you and if you want to play with that.
Yeah, it's just a potential issue that you can run into. Yeah. Not right or wrong, but it's just something to consider.
Absolutely.
There are guys there who run them.
Yep.
You'll notice you will not see a lot of target specific rigs at this place, but there are still guys that come with target bows. Okay. So you can do it however you want. These are all just things that we're kind of bringing up based off experience that we've had, because we've had really great total archery events and we've had really not great total archery events. And not that the experience wasn't fun, but just weather-wise, it was just rough. And Total Archery Challenge last year seemed to have a black cloud following it around, and it was wet at everyone we attended.
Yep, it was wet everywhere.
So just something to consider if you're on the edge about running a lens or any kind of magnification or something. Just consider the weather and the condensation and the humidity and then the rain, because it can really, make it very challenging to look through a lens that's got water all over it.
Yeah, very, very hard to do. So, yeah, just take it with a grain of salt and just play around with it too.
Yeah,
definitely nothing wrong with it.
No, if you know it's gonna be a good day, throw that lens in there, throw it in that bad boy, and head out for the course. The other thing too that I think is pretty cool with a lot of these new sights is their toolless adjustments, right? And micro adjustability, which is fantastic, right? If you look at an entry level or a mid price point sight, it doesn't have the fine tune adjustment that your quality sight does. Not saying it's bad, it's just another factor and something to consider. When you're on some of these courses, sometimes you need to make maybe a windage adjustment on your sight. And when you have a toolless adjustment capability, it's that much better, right? Because you can unlock that latch, you can fine tune each click through your adjustment and lock it back down, versus some of your more maybe entry level, mid price point sites. You got to pull out an Allen key, you've got to loosen it, slide it, and hope it didn't go too far, and then reset it. With the toolless or micro adjustability in some of these sites, these newer sites, higher end sites, you don't have to worry about bumping it and being like, oh gosh, where it was. It's set, you click it, however many clicks you feel you need to dial it, and you can make that adjustment on the fly on the course.
Yeah, and there are more mid price point sites that are coming into that market too. Like for example, Trophy Ridge, they have a lot of nice stuff with their React technology that's actually it is toolless on some of their stuff, but it is, I'd say, in the higher end of the mid price point is what I would call that. But yeah, there are still plenty of options with that too, and they even have slider sites that are a little bit more budget friendly too. So something to think about. The Swift, Swift series. So if you're looking, save a little bit of money, but still get into that slider game, that is something to consider as well.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. They do have some really good stuff, man. They've been around for a long time, and I think they put out a pretty good mid price point, and even I would say getting into some of the upper end quality sites. But so when we look at this as well, I mean, like we said, we don't want to discourage you from just run what you brung, right? But just set yourself up for success. When you look at some of the stuff, it can really get overly complicated. And that's one thing we don't want to, overwhelm you with, because at the end of the day, when you look at archery and archers, we can overcomplicate some stuff from an arrow build to a sight to, tuning a bow. We're really good at really diving in the weeds and stuff that probably really doesn't matter because our shooting capability isn't up to that.
Right.
Obviously, you want everything set up as well as you possibly can. That makes sense, right? And set up accordingly to what you're running, but don't overcomplicate the process. Right. The best thing with it is if you've decided on whatever sight you're going to run, you need to have it set up ahead of time so that you're comfortable with it and you understand how it works. Whether it's a simplistic, basic fixed pin sight that you're going to change the yardage, the preset yardage on it, or you're going to a more of these higher end, more complex sites, you need to understand how it works, the fundamentals of it, and then just spend time behind it and shoot it.
Right. Don't buy it a couple days before you go out to an event. Get it definitely well in advance, play with it, and understand how it operates. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I would say if you can, if you don't understand it, you can always contact the manufacturer typically, but your local bow shop is going to do a good job of helping you get set up and understanding how it works. Because as someone getting into this and not understanding, you don't work on bows every day of your life and you're not around all of the new products and stuff. It is kind of overwhelming and overly complicated, but a good shop is going to take their time with you, especially if they're the one selling it to you, show you how to set it up, get it set up, make sure your axes are leveled on it. That's one thing I would say. If you are getting a new sight, you need to take it to a shop that can level it for you correctly to your bow. It's just critical, and it's going to make that sight perform that much better. And you don't realize how critical it is until you go to shoot a steep uphill or a steep downhill shot and you miss. And you're like, I did everything right. And it turns out it's just your equipment's not set up correctly.
Right. Yeah. And, it's one thing for it to happen at Total Archery. If it does, it's not as detrimental. But, if you're on a once in a lifetime hunt and that happens, that can crush you. It can just make you not want to hunt anymore. And it's not something that I would want to ever have happen to me. So that's why I'm always very adamant about understanding the product that we have, and I always like to play with and test everything so that way I can try and be the best bow technician I can to help set up customers, make them successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, work within your budget too. Do not go out of think you need to go off the deep end on this and buy something overly complicated. I would encourage you not to. There's a lot of great sites with that, and like JR said, Trophy Ridge makes some really great sites within that price point. There's some good black gold sites that are I would say fairly inexpensive. Majority of your brands have some mid price point sites that are just really great that allow you, the big thing, look for that second or third axis adjustment on your site that have those features and they're not overly expensive. Yes, you might lose maybe some of the toolless adjustment, some of the smaller features, right? But their work, they're still a really good site. They're more durable than your super entry level stuff. One thing you look at as far as durability goes is like the actual material used with them. Like, I'll give you a prime example. Some of your really entry level sites, whenever you go to adjust your windage on the site, if you over tighten that screw, it crushes the plastic and it's no good.
Same for your pins.
Your
a lot
pins,
of that's,
all of
that.
that.
The plastic housing, it's just going to mess everything up. And then if you try to bump it or move it, it won't go back to the same spot. And it's gonna throw you off. So yeah, I would definitely highly recommend staying away from something like that if you can.
Yes, and so like when you step up a little bit, you get that metal, that aluminum material that's much more durable, much more consistent, I would say, and precise, because that's what you want. When it comes to a sight, is you want something that's built well, it's very consistent, it is precise, because once you set it up, you don't want it moving, you don't want it slipping, you don't want it sliding, and where you constantly feel like you're losing your zero. Because that is a reality with some sites too. They just don't hold a zero well with vibration.
Just over time even,
Yes.
Yeah.
So all things to consider. So if you're looking at something that's a little bit more budget friendly, look at the Trophy Ridge stuff, look at some of the black gold sites. Who else makes some really good mid price point or,
I think CBE has some decent stuff. I know, we don't carry CBE, but I believe they have some decent stuff that's more budget friendly as well. I think Spot Hog has some different options for more, they'd be more of a fixed spin. Their grinder series. I think those are a little bit more budget friendly and still give me an awesome sight.
Yeah.
Man, who else is there?
There's a handful out there.
There's a bunch.
So, just look around. I would vet them and make sure that they're quality, look at the reviews and stuff. But, some of my favorite sites, I would say, and I have a handful. I think there's a lot of great site manufacturers out there. Durability wise, Spot Hogg makes some of my favorite sights with their Booney series. I really love their MRT rings for peep alignment. Their pins are nice and bright, and their pins are very, very tough.
Yep.
I would say just very, very durable. And they have a lot of different mounting options too. And that's another thing to consider based off your bow. If you're going to run pick mount, bridge lock, dovetail, direct, whatever, they offer all of those. Right. And then again, like I said, I can't say enough about the durability side. And their sight tapes are really nice, I think, too. They've got their extended yardage sight tapes, all waterproof. And again, very easy adjustment, micro adjustment on all those. That's big for me for sight. I want micro adjustment on everything. I want to be 100%. Able to micro adjust, even like my axes. Like if I can micro adjust those to where you don't loosen it, it just falls, comes loose. You know, some of these sites offer that as well, which is honestly super nice. It's a little bit more, but dude, to me, it's worth its weight in gold.
Oh yeah. It makes it so much easier for the setup. So even if you're not doing it, you'll think the Bowtech.
Yeah.
Because it makes it so much easier. The only downside, like we talked about Black Gold, is their second axis, it's actually moving their ring. So that's the only downside with them. I'm hoping they'll have that updated eventually, but
that is the problem with that is it's slow.
It is.
So you'll think you got it, and then the bubble just keeps floating.
Yeah.
And then you go back the other way and it's too much.
Yeah.
It's back and forth.
Yeah, they have more of like a viscous oil in there instead of like a water. So their bubble does move very slow, which is actually really nice. You don't have to worry about it moving too fast or anything like that. So
it'll drive you crazy leveling it.
Yep. 100%. Yeah.
Oh, dude, that drives me crazy. Leveling a sight is probably, some people are really good at it. I mean, it drives me crazy, dude.
It can be.
There's so many different sights.
Yeah, and they're all different in how they do it. I mean, it's the same end goal, but it's different in how they do everything. So it can be very, very annoying, very tedious to do. 100%.
Yes, yeah. You definitely need the tools to do it, and you need somebody with experience to help you with it, for sure. You know, Spot Hogg, like I said, incredibly durable. They've got good pins on them too. Dude, the HHA Nitrix, that new XV3 series is got me sold. I love the housing on it. It just looks more modern based off some of their prior houses. I love the adjustable rheostat on it. The pins are durable. They're bright. They're individually adjustable on that vertical 3-pin. Ergonomically, I like how it is. It's got a very smooth wheel on it. The lock on it can be kind of annoying sometimes. It's because it works really good. Yeah. Like it locks down and it doesn't move. But I do like some of the other sites too that have the actual lock on the front. You can use it with one finger. Yeah. Pretty fast.
Yeah. Ultraviews like that, dialed.
Dialed's new proof series with their, what is it?
The Mag 3VA is their new one, the vertical 3-pin.
Another fantastic sight. And my favorite thing about Dialed is their light. I mean, we keep talking about it. I don't like a sight light, but I love theirs.
Yep. Yeah. I love theirs too. Yeah, Excel, theirs is actually pretty user-friendly, I think, too, especially for the lock and all the features and everything.
Yeah, so the new site is the driver. And, dude, you want to talk about lightweight when it comes to sites? Dude, the driver Excel site is almost ridiculously light. It doesn't feel like anything.
Yeah, I think it's one of the lightest sites on the market right now.
Especially their pick-mounted one. There's nothing to it.
Yep. Yeah, even their Bridgelock one is pretty light. Yeah. They did shorten that bar quite a bit, too. So that's the only downside with that one is I don't think it has adjustments for being able to slide it in and out if you need to for torque tuning or peep alignment.
That's the same thing like the...
most of them are going that way now if it's a bridge lock.
If it's a bridge lock, you don't have the ability in and out. Same thing. So like when you look at the Nitrix XV3, their bridge lock sight is 10% lighter than their dovetail option. So if you want to save weight and you run a Matthews bow, I mean, the bridge lock is a no-brainer, I think, unless you're somebody that wants a torque tune. Then you're not going to be running that integrated rest, and you're not going to be running that integrated sight. So got to pick and choose your battles. What's important to you, what's not.
Yeah, I don't know of many bow hunters that are very picky about doing torque tuning.
Well, they're typically target guys too, if they are.
Yeah, that's typically what it is. So, and I don't know of many guys that do torque tune hunting bows. I know a handful, but not many.
Mine is, I always reference Cooper. Yeah. Cooper French. Yeah. He's like, dude, you need to torque tune. I ain't doing that.
Yeah. He's very into all that, though.
Dude, he's so technical, man. That's like, whenever I got questions on things, I'm like, Cooper, hey, dude, update me on this. And he's good, man. He'll get you the information. Yeah, he's really good. He's at all the TAC events, too, for PSE. So PSE does a really great booth. And I think all of your manufacturers now are keying into TAC and seeing how important it is.
Yeah, Matthews was out there last year, which was awesome to see. because I don't think I've seen them at a TAC. And
last year, I think was their first year, and they skipped IBO events, I think, for it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's cool to see that the manufacturers are getting on board with this, and it's a great way to help grow, I think, just the sport in general.
I do too, man. So, one thing we didn't cover is more the technical side. Is there's a lot of Peep options out there. Mm-hmm. I'm sold on the Raptor Peeps from Hamskea. Yep. So I do like it. I like the concept. They are a little bit bigger. I ran your standard Raptor, either 5/32, pretty much on all my bows is a 5/32. Yep. I might have had some 3/16 in there. Very durable. It's a longer baffle system, so one thing I noticed where it shines is glare. Right. So if we're shooting and it's low light, like the sun is setting and that sun is right in your eyes, you can look through that Peep sight and it really helps with glare, which again, very important if you're getting ready to take your shot on the side of a mountain and that shot's 100 yards away and the sun's just not where you need it to be. I think investing in a good Peep sight is worth the money as well.
Right. Yeah. So the way that's designed is it's going to help reduce glare by the baffling system in there, and then the baffles are chamfered on the ends. There's 45-degree angle chamfers on there. So how light protons work is they will bounce twice and then they die. So once it hits that baffle and those chamfers, it's going to help reduce the glare in the long run. So it is more technical of what I'm talking about, but yeah, it's just going to help reduce the glare with that.
Know that it works.
Yes.
It does. Because you see most people, basic run-of-the-mill, a standard aluminum, or even some of them a polymer plastic material, 3/16 Peep, 1/4-inch Peep on a lot of these hunting bows that we see come through. And I do think investing in a quality Peep, which is not a big expense by any means, it's a couple bucks more, but I do think it goes a long way, and it really does help with, 1, glare, and 2, alignment with your scope or your sight housing.
Right.
The little bit smaller ones, I notice, as far as alignment, they can be a little bit out of alignment. You can't really tell, but when you have something that's got a little bit longer baffle and it's out of alignment, it's much easier to tell, and you need to correct that. Right. So it's worth it. And then, Hamskea obviously has a lot of different Peep options too, right? So where you can go into their clarifiers, their verifiers, it's just aperture sizes. Right. So if you run their, what's the Peep that we talked about? The Insight Peep. You can change out the apertures on the fly, like JR talked about earlier. So it gives you a lot of freedom. Obviously, it's more expensive, but if you're somebody that likes to play, it's a great option. Specialty Peep has some really great Peep systems out there.
Yeah, they have the new one that just came out. It's called the Stack It. So that one actually is combining a verifier and clarifier. So you can actually run both if you need to. So that is a nice system. That is very expensive, though, for that system because it only comes as the whole kit.
Yeah. So if that's something that appeals to you, like I said, some people want to run the lenses and the clarifiers and the verifiers. There's great systems out there for it, especially if you have some eyesight issues. Right. There's always remedies in order to correct those and help, keep you in the game a little bit longer. But again, it's very easy to get overcomplicate things. If you're someone that don't really have any issues with it, man, run what you brung. You got a bow sight, you got an Edge 320 with a stock Peep sight with a cable on it or a tube pulling it, and dude, run that thing. You can absolutely get out there and do it. There's kids that come to these events. Adults, old folks, young folks, everybody.
I've seen plenty of families, mom, dad, kids, plenty of them.
Yeah, definitely. Do what you can to get your bow set up to get the most out of it for these events, but don't feel like you don't have the equipment for this, because you absolutely do. If you've got a bow, bring it out, man, and I would highly encourage you to get behind it and spend some time with it and check out the Total Archery events, because I think this is probably the single best thing within the archery community that brings a large group of archers together, and you get the community that comes along with it. You get the bow hunting community, and then you get to interact with your vendors, customers, consumers. It's just an incredible event.
Yeah. It's a great way to get out there and meet new faces and possibly new friends.
And then challenge yourself, buddy. Yep. Bring enough arrows.
Yes.
A minimum of 12.
Yep. That's normally what I bring is about 12.
Yes. I would say a minimum of 12. And then practice with your gear before you get there, because nothing's worse than paying to shoot a course and you just keep missing. So there's, like I said, we go back to it. A good sight is critical to, I think, Total Archery. And if you have the ability to invest in a good one, I would, because the sight is going to go with you. A good sight is going to go from bow to bow to bow to bow to bow. It's not something you got to constantly buy. So one piece of equipment that I think is, aside from an arrow rest upgrade on your bow, like the sight would be the next one that I would really invest heavily in. And then I would invest according to what you want to do with it. If you're somebody that enjoys distance, total archery event, look at some of those sights that have the ability to dial. Look at the new scope housings that are out there. Dialed, HHA, UltraView, Excel, Spot Hog, Black Gold. Look at their high-end stuff. If you're interested in it, and then even better, if you can get into a local shop to put your hands on it and really understand it a little bit better, so you know exactly what you're getting, because they all are kind of unique in how they operate and how they work. Because if you look at, for example, Dialed, their system, it's on an angle. So, which is great for distance.
Yep. Yeah. The way that works is it actually helps increase it by, so it's angling back toward you. So when the sight's closer to you, you don't have to do as much of a movement to make those bigger distance adjustments.
Right. So yeah, lots of different things. There's a lot of technical aspects of these that's worth learning if you're interested in them. You know, you can always head over to Extreme Outfitters YouTube channel too. We do a lot of content on those. But yeah, man. Total Archery, it's coming. We'll be at a bunch of them this year. We're super excited. But we just wanted to touch a little bit on sights. It's something we've never really covered specifically for the event. And like I said, there's a lot of great options, but there are a lot of things you can do to improve your experience at these. And we just wanted to highlight on some of these, and, you know, durability being one of them, how to set your peep height, adjusting pins based off the distance on the course. A lot of things you can do to run what you currently got and make yourself successful on at these events. Yep. So that's it. What else you got, JR? Anything good?
No, that's pretty good.
That's it. That's a wrap on it, guys. So drop some comments, give us some feedback on your thoughts on sight setup, what you run, how you set your sight up for Total Archery, or do you just run your hunting sight? I'm always curious. I know we are reading the comments, giving some feedback and letting us know what you guys, how you guys set your stuff up to, you know, have the best experience you can at Total Archery Challenge. So drop some comments, give us some feedback, let us know. We really enjoy hearing from you guys. And as always, we appreciate you guys following along, listening to us rant and talk on the Archery Project. So appreciate it, guys. We're going to head back to work, and we will see you guys in the next episode.